رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه اللهم أرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu once again. Welcome back to our second session inspired by the Quran, Yasin, Surah Yasin, and inshallah we will do the second and the third portion today. Yesterday we went over its the backdrop, the circumstances against which the surah was revealed. We tried and understood the mindset of the people who were receiving that message. We saw that the surah opened up basically comforting Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, offering him consolation. So the first part you can say is basically about the prophethood. Remember all Makki surahs, there are three themes. What are the three themes in Makki surahs? Tawheed, Risala, yes, and then
the resurrection,
right? Accountability, ba'ath ba'd al-maut. So we finished talking about Risala. The first portion spoke about the prophethood of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, described his status and what is his role as a messenger. The fact that he can warn, but he can warn only the one that has the khashiyah of Rabb, right? Who remembers the reminder, which is Quran, and he has the khashiyah of his Rabb. And then following that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the story. In order to bring all these facts that he presented to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he presented a story to bring those facts to life. And we had the story of the people of the village, and then we had that believing soul who was killed brutally by the community, and then we saw how destruction or punishment came upon that community, right? We ended at that. Now, today, the portion begins from ayah number 30. For those who were not here yesterday, we're going to begin from ayah number 30, inshallah. And the way it begins, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وبسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا حسرة على العباد. يا حسرة على العباد is basically an expression for extreme sorrow. It's like you see someone and you expect that person to do what he's expected to do, but he's not doing it, right? But he has all the reminders, he has all the signs, and yet he's not choosing to do the obvious. And at that time, you're like, what's wrong with you? You know, that kind of an expression. So that's basically what is captured through Ya Hasratan al-Ibad. It's a very powerful expression that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using here. And I will repeat it a couple of times just to, you know, it's throughout this conversation as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, Ya Hasratan al-Ibad, like what's going on? What is it that you're not getting? The sorry that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expressing, right? So, يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. There has never been a time that Rasul has come to them, right? And the only response that they gave is that they mocked at him, or they gave him smart, sarcastic comments, right? We just saw the story, right? Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is one messenger to a community of Quraysh, and then he gave the example of 3 messengers, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first sent 2 messengers, but those 2 were not enough. Then he strengthened those 2 by adding a 3rd one, and even 3 messengers were not enough. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. Like, you know, again and again, it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forcing guidance at our doorstep. He's sending it at my door, but then I just want to shut the door close. So, Ya hasratan ala al-ibad, like why? You know, that's the kind of expression that is intended here. Then, they used to mock at the prophets. So, an example that happened with Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, you know, they would approach him and they would say, you know, you claim that all this punishment is going to happen, right? So, do this for us. Can you have a piece of sky come and fall over our head? Just, you know, like you're claiming, can you make that do? Can you have your Allah do that? Or can you have Allah wa malaika, right? Can you have them? Ta'ti billahi wa malaika qabila. Can you bring Allah and the angels in front of us? That's the kind of, you know, whatever you're saying, Can you do it for us? Can you show it? So that's the kind of mockery that they would subject Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam to, and that's basically what Allah is saying, that you're not the first one. All right? Yes, you're going through this, but this has happened in the past as well. Alam, this is in their nature. People who don't want to take heed, this is in their nature. And then he continues in ayah number 31, he says, Alam yaraw, do they not see? Allah is like, Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. How sorry is your state? Alam yaraw, do they not see? Kam ahlakna, how many we have destroyed. Destroyed what? Qurun. قبلهم القرون, the village, the nations, the communities that came before them. How many of them we have destroyed? أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. And the ones that have been destroyed, they're not going to return back to them. Who are they going to return back to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, the Arabs, yes, they didn't have prophets sent to them after Ismail alayhi salam. Sorry, the Meccans, we shouldn't say Arabs. The Meccans, they didn't have prophets sent to them after Ismail alayhi salam. But the Meccans, on their trade routes, during their trade journeys, they saw the areas of Hud alayhi salam. They saw the areas of Thamud, the areas of Thamud, how they were destroyed. So it was like on their face. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with them. And even in Surah Fajr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi'ad? Do you not see how Allah dealt with Ad, with Thamuda, وَجَابُوا الصَّخْرَ بِالْوَادِ, and Thamud, the ones who used to carve homes out of mountains? Don't you see what happened of them? So it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking a rhetorical question. It's obvious, it's appealing to the reason. You see it in front of your face. Then what is it that's causing you to turn away, right? What is it that's causing them to turn away? It's the wall. It's the wall behind them. Remember, we did the person yesterday. So keep that image of that prisoner in your mind as we're going through these ayahs. And it's the manifestation of that imagery that you will see throughout this. Allah is saying, you don't see history? Yes, you will not see history because you put up a wall behind you. How are you going to see that? So we're talking about the behind wall right now. Alam yaraw kam ahlakna qablahum min al-quruni annahum ilayhim la yarji'un. And then وَإِن كُلٌّ لَمَّا جَمِيعٌ لَدَيْنَا مُحْضَرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning a fact. He just said that these people are not going to, the ones who have been destroyed, they're not going to come back to you. They're going to come back where? إِن كُلٌّ لَمَّا جَمِيعٌ لَدَيْنَا مُحْضَرُونَ. All of them will be presented before us. Each one of these communities, each one of these people who were destroyed before you, they're going to be presented before us. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a result of this wall that is behind them, they're not able to take lesson from their past, right? Now Allah is asking another obvious question. Fine, there's a wall behind you. What about in front of you? Don't you see the ayahs that are in front of you? And then he presents this list of ayahs. What is an ayah? What's the meaning of an ayah?
Sign.
Sign. It's not any sign. It's like the yellow sign that you see on the road, right? Do not enter. That kind of a like bright yellow, like it catches your attention. That kind of a sign. And we have those signs posted for us all around us. When we talk about ayahs, there are two kind of ayahs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has posted. One is the ayahs, the signs that are around us, they're called afaqi. Signs that are in the universe, they're called afaqi, and the signs that are within us, they're called anfus, right? Ayatul anfus. Now, this in this portion of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mostly mentions the afaqi ayahs, the ayahs that are around us. But remember this person. How is this person? There's a collar around his neck which reaches up to his chin, and his head is held up like this, right? Muqmahun, like a camel, right? Because of his arrogance, and he's not able to see what is obviously on his face, right? But Allah says, like, there are these signs. I have put all these signs in front of you. وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ الْأَرْض الْمَيْتَةِ. A sign for them is the dead, barren earth, right? How is that a sign? أَحْيَيْنَاهَا. We give it life. وَأَخْرَجْنَا مِنْهَا حَبًّا. And we bring out of it grains. فَمِنْهُ يَأْكُلُونَ. And they eat from it. If a person consciously looks around his, whatever is around him in his surroundings, he will find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a reason why we have these du'as for eating and drinking. If we make du'as with a conscious mind, we will be forced to reflect upon the grain that is in front of us. Where did this grain come from? Right? So there is a sign in there, that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever you're eating. And remember, these, most of these signs you will see, they talk about that they're mostly in relation to open land. Why? Because Arabs, they were crossing deserts. Right? During the day, it's open land. So they have all the time to reflect, only if they chose to reflect. Right? In the night, they have the open skies. So that's why you see the mention of earth and skies a lot, the stars, because that's basically their world. We don't see open spaces as much anymore, but at the time of revelation, the primary audience, this is basically what their environment was like. Right? So that's why we see these kind of, again and again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, look into your universe, look into your surroundings, you will find me there. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the grain, then He says, وَجَعَلْنَا فِيهَا جَنَّاتٍ مِّن نَخِيلٍ. And then we placed in it, we made in it gardens of date palms, وَأَعْنَابٍ and grapes, وَفَجَّرْنَا فِيهَا مِنَ الْعُيُونِ and we caused from it to burst springs, right? Water comes from it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the reason. Why did He give us all these favors? لِيَأْكُلُوا مِنْ ثَمَرِهِ so that they can eat from its fruits. وَمَا عَمِلَتْهُ أَيْدِيهِمْ and their hands did not make any of it. Meaning, when I eat the orange is round, I have no role to play in that. I have no role in making the orange color. I have no role in making the orange round, or the shape of bananas, or the cluster of grapes. If we openly, with the eyes of our heart, if we look at even just the cluster of a grape, regardless of where you're picking it up from, it looks so beautiful. Whether it's Walmart, whether it's Kroger, any cluster of grape you pick up, it looks amazing. That kind of symmetry, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can provide us with. And that's exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every instance of our life, every moment of our life, we are hit with reminders. We are hit with ayahs, only if we choose to take heed, right? Okay, so وَجَعَلْنَا فِيهَا جَنَّاتٍ مِّن نَخِيلٍ وَعَنَابٍ وَفَجَّرْنَا فِيهَا مِنَ الْعُيُونِ لِيَأْكُلُوا مِنْ ثَمَرِهِ وَمَا عَمِلَتْهُ أَيْدِيهِمْ أَفَلَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Why would you not think? Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. How sorry is your state? Why? Isn't it obvious for you to thank the one who has given you everything? Why do you not? Afala yashkurun. Why do they not think, right? Subhanalladhi khalaqa al-azwaja kullaha. Subhan is used whenever you want to negate something negative that is being said about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this, everything is about, they're doubting His oneness, they're doubting resurrection. So all of that is being negated, and Allah, and it said Subhan, perfect. He is the epitome of perfection, right? His glory is perfect. So Subhan, and it's very interesting, I want to mention this. Subhan comes from the root letters Sin, Ba, Ha, right? Now in Arabic language, the root and the actual word, there's always a meaning. It's not random, there's always a meaning. So Sin, Ba, Ha, it means to swim, literally. If you open the dictionary, Sin, Ba, Ha means to swim. What is the relation between swimming and Subhan, which is to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Hear me out. When a person needs, if a person needs to stay afloat and not sink, he needs to swim, right? In a spiritual sense, if you want your spirituality to remain alive, you need to be swimming in the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the connotation. Okay, and that's how the meaning Subhan comes from the root Sin, Ba, Ha. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah, He mentions that He created everything in pairs. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْأَزْوَاجَ كُلَّهَا مِمَّا تُنْبِتُ الْأَرْضِ. Everything that the earth produces has been created in pair. وَمِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ, and also from within themselves, like from us, whatever it is, we are also created in pairs. وَمِمَّا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, and that which they don't know. Meaning everything has a pair in dunya. This dunya also has a pair. What is the pair of this dunya? Akhirah. Okay, so that's the driving point here. Next, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in ayah number 37, He talks about, after talking about the earth, right? Now He's talking about the day and the night. You know, it's you are compelled to observe the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like this person who is a prisoner to his desires, who is a prisoner to his greed and arrogance and pride and envy, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to get to him. And okay, the sign of the earth couldn't open his heart, maybe the night and day will. Let's try it with the night and day. Right? So you have these multiple chances that you will see. Every ayah that is presented here, it's a chance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is presenting to me so that I will open up my heart. Right? وَآيَةٌ لَهُمُ اللَّيْلُ نَسْلَخُ مِنْهُ النَّهَارِ. Beautiful. And the ayah is the night. What is it? How is the night an ayah? The night is the night. You have night, right? And it's as if day is over the night, right? And the day, you know how you peel off something? It's as if naslakh min salakha yaslakhu means to salakha yaslakhu means to peel something. So it's as if the day is peeled off. Okay? The day is peeled off and the night comes forward. That's basically how the cycle of nature takes place. There's a spiritual meaning. We'll get to it in a little bit. وَآيَةٌ لَهُمُ اللَّيْلُ نَسْلَخُ مِنْهُ النَّهَارِ فَإِذَا هُمْ مُظْلِمُونَ, and then they find themselves in darkness, right? It's not night forever, it's not day forever, right? Then وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ, and the sun, it runs in its place. It has its own course, right? And that is determined by the Aziz and by the Alim, the one who has complete authority, the one who has full knowledge. وَالْقَمَرِ, the moon, قَدَّرْنَاهُ مَنَازِلَ حَتَّى عَادَ كَالْعُرْجُونِ الْقَدِيمِ, and the moon, it goes through phases. Alright? It goes through phases which has been determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, until it returns to looking like a dried stalk of palm. Right? Now, لا الشمس ينبغي لها تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. What is being said over here is the sun cannot, it will never happen that the sun will take over the course of the moon, or the moon will take over the course of the sun, or the night will come before the day, right? Or the night is going to race before the day. It's never going to happen. Everything is in their own, everything is on its own set course, and they're swimming. Now, what's the meaning, what's the purpose of these ayahs? How can we spiritually understand them? You know, before Islam came, right? Before Islam came, Islam is this light that came in the darkness of Jahiliyyah. Alright? So this layl that we're talking about over here, it refers to the time of Jahiliyyah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us light through the light of Islam. We all have been born in the fitrah of Islam. That's the light. However, if we don't take care of that light will be peeled away. Similar to how the day is peeled off and the night appears, and I find myself in the darkness. Similarly, if I don't work hard to preserve the light of Islam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted me, it will be peeled away and I will find myself wandering in the dark. About the sun and the moon, the most beautiful, there are a couple of observations and lessons that, reflections that we can make, but due to time I'll just mention one. It talks about the moon going through phases, right? The moon has to go through phases. Similarly, I have to go through phases. I was in my mother's womb, and then I was born. I was an infant at some time, and then I became a toddler, and then I became a child, and then I became a teenager, and then I became a youth, and then I got married, I had family, full-blown adulthood, right? After adulthood is what? I begin to gray, right? I begin to gray, my bones begin to become weak and feeble. Slowly, slowly, I begin to decline. Like the moon, like I see the moon in the sky, going through stages. We see this every month, right? That's a reminder. Reminder for what? Just like the moon goes through cycle, it goes through stages, it has to complete that cycle. I am going to go through those stages as well. I cannot remain an infant forever. I cannot remain a teenager forever. I cannot remain an adult forever. So if the moon, that's the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything has to complete its cycle. The sun, it is there for an appointed time. As powerful and as fierce it is, it does not go outside its track. It is obedient to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we look at nature, we're supposed to reflect on how these celestial bodies have been placed in the sky. Why? So when I look at the sky, I am reminded. Everything has an appointed term. The sun has an appointed term. I have an appointed term too. And nothing can change my course. Like nothing can change the sun's course, nothing can change my course. Nothing can stop the moon from moving through its phases, nothing can stop me from moving through my phases, right? So that's the spiritual meaning that we can take from reflecting on these ayahs. Next, so after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about the earth, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about the night and the day. Now He's talking about the seas. So He spoke about the earth. Maybe it didn't open up my heart. I'm still not listening. So let me see, Allah tried to talk to me about the night and the day. But I'm stubborn. I'm still persisting. I don't want to change. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is directing my attention towards the seas. What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying? وَآيَةٌ لَهُمْ أَنَّا حَمَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ فِي الْفُلْكِ الْمَشْحُونِ. And it's a sign, it's an apparent sign for them. It's this fulk boat, it's referring to the ship of Nuh alayhi salam. Alright? It is referring to the time when Nuh alayhi salam was instructed to carry all the believers, alright? Place all the believers on the ship, and along with a pair of every kind of animal, right? And from there we have come. He's known as the junior Adam alayhi salam, right? So from him, humanity again continued. So that's why Dhurriya, we placed their children. We placed their children, meaning Nuh alayhi salam, the people that he got on the boat with, the believers that he got on the boat with, we are their children, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a metaphor is mentioning that we placed their children on that boat. That is also a sign for them. The sea, the massive body of water that carried the ship, is a sign for someone who reflects. And then he continues and he says, وَخَلَقْنَا لَهُم مِّن مِّثْلِهِ مَا يَرْكَبُونَ. And then we created for them similar to it. We gave man the capability to understand the mechanics of wind, the dynamics of the water, and come up with the ability to create gigantic, humongous vessels that float on the sea. Can you imagine that? Water, it's water, right? And water is carrying on its surface these gigantic vessels. For a person who reflects, if he cannot find it on the earth, if he cannot find it in the universe, in the sky, let him look at the water. Let him look at the seas. Maybe he will find it there. وَخَلَقْنَا لَهُم مِّن مِّثْلِهِ مَا يَرْكَبُونَ وَإِن نَشَأْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and if we had willed, نُغْرِقْهُمْ فَلَا صَرِيخَ لَهُمْ. And if we had willed, then we would have drowned them. فَلَا صَرِيخَ لَهُمْ. No one would have responded to their screams. يعني no one would have responded to their SOS. وَلَا هُمْ يُنْقَذُونَ. Neither would they have been rescued or saved. إِلَّا رَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَمَتَاعًا إِلَى حِينٍ. It is only from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we continue to walk on the face of this earth. Right? It is only that we have this provision till a certain time. Understand this. each one of us, when we are born with a bank of few breaths, right? Each one of us, in our bank deposit, we have these few breaths, and we're using them every second. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Your continuing on the face of this earth is the result of His rahmah. Illa rahmatan. Right? It is because of His rahmah that I am walking on the face of this earth, and it is also because mata'an, because He has given me this provision. What is that provision? Few breaths He has given me. And until He has given me these breaths, He's going to reach out to me. Whether you reach out to me or not, Allah is going to reach out to me, because He still believes that I will transform. Okay? So He's giving us these ayahs, and then وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ اتَّقُوا مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيكُمْ. So now in this, up to here, He spoke about the 3 ayahs, right? He spoke about the ayahs that we see on land. He spoke about the ayahs that we see in the night and day, and then He spoke about the sun and the moon, and then He spoke about the seas, right? Now He's saying, when it is said to them, be conscious of what is before you and what is behind you. When did He talk about what was behind us? Just before these ayahs were mentioned, He was talking about the story. So this is basically the summary. Okay? This is basically the summary of everything that we have discussed so far. The story is basically behind us, right? What is it's our past, it's our history. And then all these ayahs, this is what is before us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in summary is saying, just become conscious. That's all you have to do. Just become conscious of what is in front of you and what is behind you, right? وَمَا خَلْفَكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. What is the purpose? So that you will receive the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that you can be on the straight path. وَمَا تَأْتِيهِمْ مِنْ آيَةٍ مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ إِلَّا كَانُوا عَنْهَا مُعْرِضِينَ. But what do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has presented our past. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has presented all these signs of the universe. But then in conclusion, He says that every time a sign has come to them, the only response that they have given is mu'aridun, turn away. They turn away from these signs. So now, did Allah create the wall?
No.
Allah is presenting the signs, right? But I'm turning away. So who's putting up the walls? Myself. I am putting up the walls around myself, because these signs are there for me even now, right? The history is where it is. The afaq is where it is. But I am turning away. I want to be in my the temporal state, my dunya, my desires. I just want to be chained by that. I want to be the prisoner of my dunya. I don't want to look beyond that. The superficial world, that has distracted me completely. It has stolen my focus away completely from the truth, from the reality, and it is not allowing me to wake up. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues and He says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ قَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. This is like, oh my God. Remember the ayah where, look at this one, ayah number 30, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a statement over here. He said, يَا حَسْرَةً عَلَى الْعِبَادِ مَا يَأْتِيهِمْ مِنْ رَسُولٍ إِلَّا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. Every time a messenger came, right? Every time a messenger came, you guys made fun of him, right? And then He spoke about the signs, right? The signs that are there. Like, how can you ignore these signs? So it was as if like this was, after saying this, إِلَّا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ, how did they make fun of the messengers? How did they ridicule the messengers? This is an example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving over here. Okay? After talking about all these ayahs in between, the topic that He started over here, which talks about the istihza, the mockery of Rasul, how did they make fun of the messengers? This is what they said. When it is said to them, spend from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, قَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, the ones who disbelieve, they say, to the ones لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, to the ones who believe, أَنُّطْعِمُ مَنْ لَوْ يَشَاءُ اللَّهُ أَطْعَمَهُم. Do you want us to feed the ones who, if Allah wanted, He would have fed anyways? إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. You are totally messed up. This is basically what the disbelievers are saying to the believers. When it is said to the believers, feed the poor, give from the charity, the Makkans, the way they used to respond is, why? Allah is the provider of rizq. If Allah wanted to give them, He would have given it to them. Why should we give? Right? For you to expect this of us, you're totally messed up. This is basically what they're saying to the believers over here. Okay? So this is again ridiculing. Whenever a messenger would say something, they would respond. This is one of the types of response that they would give. The second response that they would give is over here, ayah number 48, a very common response. وَيَقُولُونَ. And then they would say, مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. When is this going to happen? Whatever you're saying. The sky coming down on us, the accountability, the angels coming down and taking account of us, asking us of every single moment that we have lived, and that we're going to be, when are we going to be put back together? When, our bones and everything would have rotted, when are we going to be put back together? When is this going to happen? Ayyana mursaha, like in Surah Nazi'at, they mentioned to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not even choose to respond to that. And the way He continues is, مَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَّا سَيْحَةً وَاحِدَةً. He just mentions a fact. It is only going to be one loud shout. One piercing shout. Meaning in a moment. Alright? In a moment. It's very scary. وَاحِدَةً تَأْخُذُهُمْ وَهُمْ يَخِصِّمُونَ. That can take over them while they are arguing with you. While they are debating with you. It could happen at that moment. Yani that sayha, that final moment, this person who is in prison, who's a prisoner of his dunya, and everything is about now. Nothing is about the future, nothing is about the past, right? Everything is about now. He forgets that his next now could be the final one. When he is arguing with Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he's arguing with the believers, when he's trying to pick faults, it could just strike him at that moment, and it will be only a moment that he's wiped out. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning. You see this very powerfully stated in Surah Naba also, where He says, عَمَّا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. It was a group of disbelievers, they're talking amongst themselves about Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, making fun of the message that he brought, and it is as if Allah takes offense, and He says, عَمَّا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. What are they talking about? عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ. Are they talking about that great news, الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ مُخْتَلِفُونَ, about which they themselves are in disagreement? كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. They're going to find out. ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. They are going to find out. So you just leave it at that. Because the ones who are going to question, the ones who are going to have doubts, it is not because they have doubt. It is because they don't want to believe. Abu Jahl, it's not like he didn't believe that Quran was the truth, that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was the truth. He believed in it, but he didn't want to accept it, right? So that's the choice he made. So that's why the hikmah is, when somebody is arguing with you, and if you find them peeling layers, you just let be, you don't engage them. Because it's a never-ending debate. It's a never-ending cycle. It'll just continue. And how much are you going to continue? Like, what's the logical explanation for two angels sitting on my shoulders? How can I possibly explain that? How can I provide logic for, yes, when you dig the grave, when I go into the grave, this is basically what's going to happen. The grave is going to constrict on me. These angels are going to appear. They're going to ask questions to me. How am I possibly going to explain all of that? Right? There is an element of religion, which is a very big element, which requires iman bil ghaib. And iman bil ghaib cannot be justified with logic. It cannot be explained with logic. That's why it's iman bil ghaib. Right? That is what submission is about. So when you find such people who are constantly, it is actually them testing you. Alright? You don't give in. Because they're not coming to you because they want answers. They're coming to you because they want to ruffle your feathers. And possibly put you in a state of doubt. Alright? So for these people, you just say salam. Right? Salam, peace. And you walk away. Alright. Now, continuing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues and He says, when this moment will come upon them, right? When this moment will come upon them, فَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ تَوْسِيَةً وَإِلَىٰ أَهْلِهِمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. They will, those final goodbyes, you're dying. I know I'm dying and I want to say something, one last word. to my family, right? One last word to my friend. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, when this moment comes, they won't even have the chance to do that. They will not have the chance to say one, but that's how it will overtake them, all right, suddenly. And they will not be able to return back to their families also. Just gone, in a moment. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues in ayah number 51, وَنُفِخَ فِي السُّورِ فَإِذَا هُمْ مِنَ الْأَجْدَاثِ يَنْسِلُونَ. So he gives us a glimpse of the akhirah here. All right? He gives us, so see, you look at the style of this surah, or all the Makki surahs, trying to appeal to the intellect, all right? Trying to get you to see reason. Now, this is love, all right? This is carrot, basically. What is going to happen now is the stick. Allah is going to show the stick right now. Okay, because if the carrot doesn't work, then let's show you the stick. So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say over here? وَنُفِخَ فِي السُّورِ فَإِذَا هُمْ مِنَ الْأَجْدَاثِ يَنْسِلُونَ. Very beautiful imagery. When the trumpet will be blown, and they are in their ajdas. Ajdas is graves over here, all right? They will come out running. Running, there are words like SURAH YASIN, which also means to run, which was used by the believer, that came from the outskirts of the town, right? SURAH YASIN was used. Over here, nasala yansilu is used. Nasala yansilu is used for running down a slope. What happens when you're running down a slope? How much effort do you have to make? Not much, right? So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to depict here is that when that strike happens, when that trumpet is blown, it's almost natural that we will be running in that direction that will take us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no other way, because that's the only way to go, and naturally you will be headed in that direction. So it's like as if you're coming down a slope. So the speed you can imagine, like when you're going down, there's speed in there and there's no control. You are going down. You cannot come up. So that's the imagery that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to strike here. It's basically what he mentioned in ayah number 32 when we're talking over here, وَإِن كُلُّ لَمَّا جَمِيعٌ لَدَيْنَا مُحْضَرُونَ. Right? All of them will be brought in front of us. It's another way of saying that this is basically, they are going to come in front of us. So you see, he uses different imagery also. Maybe this one didn't get to the person, maybe it didn't scare him enough, maybe this will. And this is the style of Quran. And that's what you get, because when you're reading translation, you're pretty much getting the same English language throughout, right? But when you look at the Arabic, you're like, okay, and then like it's the same thing over and over again. It's not the same thing. The imagery is very different. Over here, the imagery is, they will be presented. Presented meaning what? You know how they're not coming on their own. It's as if they will be dragged there. They will be forced to come there. So that's the imagery over here. And over here, yes, they will be moving on their own, but they have no control on themselves. It's almost as if it's a natural thing, that this is the direction I have to go to, head towards, right? And what will they be saying? Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. Subhanallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us and all our children from such an end. Qalu ya waylana. They will say, what's going on? Oh my God. Man ba'athana min marqadina. Who woke us up from our sleep? Marqadina. Marqadina is basically not deep sleep. It's a nap, all right? So where were they? They were in their graves. So this is what they're referring to. And marqad is a restful place, right? Who woke us up from our resting place? Marqadina. Now, question may come. These are disbelievers, right? How is the grave a resting place? Question? How is the grave a resting place? The answer to that is, when these people will come out of their graves and they will see what is in front of them, وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمِ لِمَنْ يَرَى, right? يَوْمَئِذٍ وَجِيءَ يَوْمَئِذٍ بِجَهَنَّمْ, as Surah Fajr mentions it, that the Jahannam will be brought to them. And then وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمِ لِمَنْ يَرَى, the hellfire will become apparent to them. So what they will see in front of them will seem like a restful state in the grave. The punishment in the grave will seem like a restful state in comparison to what they are seeing in front of their eyes, which is going to be their eternity. Meaning these people will be like, we were good where we were. Who got us out of this state? That's basically what they're saying. Okay? من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون. There are two interpretations. One is that they come on their own, they come to this realization on their own. Oh, this is what Rahman had promised when we were back there, when we were here. This is what he had promised. وصدق المرسلون, and the messengers whom we stoned, who we made fun of, who we killed, they were saying the truth. So that's one meaning, that it is them. The other is that the believers are saying this. But they're like, what's going on here? This is exactly what they said. This is exactly what results day was going to look like. I told you. Okay, so the believers are reminding them. So these are the two interpretations of that ayah. Continuing in ayah number 53, إِن كَانَتْ إِلَّا صَيْحَةً وَاحِدَةً فَإِذَا هُمْ جَمِيعٌ لَدَيْنَا مُحْضَرُونَ. As if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot emphasize this point enough. And this is basically what He's reminding us again and again. See, the whole surah talks about risala, it talks about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it talks about resurrection. But the main theme is resurrection and accountability. So in the first part, when we spoke about risala, there was a brief mention of accountability, right? This part also, when we're talking about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's always this, Allah is taking us back to resurrection. So this is basically what He's doing again. إِن كَانَتْ إِلَّا صَيْحَةً وَاحِدَةً. It's just going to be a moment of loud shout, and everything is going to be over, and everyone is going to be standing in front of us. Everyone will be presented. This point, again and again, trying to be drilled in with different scenarios. Maybe this, since scenario A didn't get to me, but maybe scenario B will get to me. Right? So it's different ways of Allah reaching out to me, and that is from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah is not sitting, He's not waiting to punish me. He's waiting to give me my Jannah, and He wants to make sure that I protect myself and I receive enough warnings. It's like the flash warnings. Sometimes, flash flood warnings that we receive, it's like, sometimes people say, when they read through Quran and when they read through translations, they're like, why such graphic images? Allah's supposed to be Rahman. Two things happen here. When you take an ayah and you just look at the ayah, you're reading it out of context. You're understanding it out of context. Because if I just take an ayah and if I read that ayah about that person who's chained and the walls, then I'll be like, what's going on here, right? I don't have any context. So I will misinterpret that ayah. So understanding Quran in context is very important. You have to know where and how it was said, right? So that's very important. Understanding it in context. So إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala further describes that day, and He says فَالْيَوْمَ لَا تُظْلَمُ نَفْسٌ. This is the day when no soul will be wronged. No one will be wronged in any bit way. وَلَا تُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. And you will be repaid. They will be repaid exactly according to what they did. So there is no injustice. Alright? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after this description, He talks about the people of Jannah. It's a very beautiful description. Subhanallah. He says, Inna ashab al-jannati al-yawma fi shughulin fakihun. Indeed, the people of Jannah today are very busy. They're very occupied, but they're happy. They're busy. Maybe I'm busy planning a party, but I'm not stressed by it. I'm not overwhelmed by it. You know why? Because there's no kitchen in Jannah. There's no cooking in Jannah. I'm enjoying it. Alright? So that's the state of the people of Jannah. And what is it that I am doing next? وَهُمْ وَأَزْوَاجُهُمْ فِي ظِلَالٍ عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ. They and their spouses are sitting in the shade on couches. Right? مُتَّكِئِينَ, leaning against those tall couches. That's just relaxation. It's just comfort. لَهُمْ فِيهَا فَاكِهَةٌ. And for them are fruits. It's said in Surah Haqq, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions قُطُوفُهَا دَانِيَةٌ. It's like whatever I want, the minute I begin to think about it, it's as if the branch will be lowered. We don't understand the dynamics of Jannah. We don't want to even begin to do that. When we get there, inshallah, we'll see it. But we believe that this is going to happen to us. So the branches of the trees will be lowered to us. And then the fruits will be presented to us, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions وَلَهُمْ مَا يَدَّعُونَ, and they will have whatever their heart desires, whatever they call for, right? In Jannah, the house, the mansion that I will have, that you will have, inshallah, that once you enter that mansion, what will you be busy with? You will be busy with looking at the couches, right? You will be busy with looking at the rugs, like Surah Ghashiyah mentions. These ayahs, سُرُرٌ مَرْفُوعَةٌ وَأَكْوَابٌ مَوْضُوعَةٌ وَنَمَارِقُ مَصْفُوفَةٌ وَزَرَابِيُّ مَبْثُوثَةٌ. Right? The plush carpets, you will be feeling them. You will be touching them, and these are the things that you will be occupied with. Why? Because in dunya, you gave up all the haram that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked you to give up. You made an effort. Maybe you weren't able to give up fully, but you made an effort. You made a sincere effort. And here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you the reward of your effort, not deed. It can never be deed. It's the reward of your effort, right? That we get in Jannah, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all worthy of that. And then the icing or the topping on the cake. Salamun qawlan min Rabbir Rahim. You know, you're busy looking at your carpets and your cushions and your beds and your chairs, and you are going in the backyard and you're looking at your rivers and you're looking at your trees, and the grass blades are like diamonds and rubies and whatnot, right? And all of a sudden you're caught by surprise. What's the surprise? Salam from your Rabb. That's Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destine that Jannah for us in these 10 nights. For us and for Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's ummah. Alright, so then this is the description of the believers. Next is bad. Just warning you, it's bad. Okay. وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ. Aww. Look at her face. وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ. Wamtaz means what? See, if you have a bowl of nuts, right? If you have a bowl of nuts, in it is raisins and pistachio, in it says all kinds of nuts, but you don't like peanuts. So you're picking peanuts out, right? That's wamtaz. And that's the command Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving to the criminals. Separate. Stand away. Come to the side. Wamtaz al-yawma ayyuhal mujrimun. Alam ahad ilaykum ya bani Adam. Did I not take a promise from you, O children of Adam? Allah ta'budu shaitan. That you're not going to submit to shaitan. Innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. I gave you 2 instructions. Just 2. You can do whatever you want to do. Just don't listen to shaitan, because he is a clear enemy to you. Didn't I take that promise from you? Didn't I say, Alastu bi rabbikum? That I am your Rabb? Am I not your Rabb? And you said yes. What happened then? It's as if Allah is saying, what happened? وَأَنِ اعْبُدُونِي هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. And that you should worship me alone, and this is the straight path. This is the path that you're supposed to be on. In order to keep you on the straight path, I put everything in place. All you have to do is open your eyes and use your intellect. Like, Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. What happened? Everything was placed for you. It was ready-made. All you had to do was reach out and grab it. So what kept you from it? Allah continues and He says, وَأَنِ اعْبُدُونِ هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ وَلَقَدْ أَضَلَّ مِنْكُمْ جِبِلًّا كَثِيرًا. Shaitan has deviated many of you, multiples of you. Jibillan is basically group of mountains. Jabal, mountain. Jibal, mountains. Jibillan, group of mountains. Right? He has deviated multiples of you. أَفَلَمْ تَكُونُوا تَعْقِلُونَ. What happened? You weren't using your intellect? What happened to the brain that I gave you? What happened to the power of reasoning that I gave you? The power of tafakkur, tadakkur. What happened? I created you perfect. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. What happened there? ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. How did you become from the asfala safilin? I created human beings to be the best of creation. Allah created me to be the best. He created me to serve Him. And He created everything else around me to serve me. The sun is for my service. Gives me food, gives me light. The moon gives me light. The earth gives me food. The sky gives me water. Everything that Allah has placed in the universe, it's to serve the human being. The only requirement that was placed on us is to serve Him. So what happened there? What went wrong? Ya hasratan ala al-ibad. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announces His verdict. أَفَلَمْ تَكُونُوا تَعْقِلُونَ هَذِهِ جَهَنَّمُ الَّتِي كُنْتُمْ تُوعَدُونَ. This is the Jahannam that you have been warned against, promised with. إِسْلَوْهَا. Enter it. الْيَوْمَ. Today. بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْفُرُونَ. Because of that which you used to do. The description of this mujrim at this time, very scary ayah. الْيَوْمَ نَخْتِمُ عَلَىٰ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ. Today, we're going to seal their mouths. وَتُكَلِّمُنَا أَيْدِيهِمْ. And their hands are going to talk to us. وَتَشْهُدُ أَرْجُلُهُمْ. And their feet is going to bear witness. بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. All that they used to earn. كَسَبَ يَكْسِبُ means to earn. What does that tell you? The usage of that word is very powerful. You know, when we refer to earnings, what are we referring to?
Income.
Money, income. We're referring to that, right? So it's how much I earn now, right? How well I earn now. Dependent on that will be my life in the retirement years, right? 60, 70. If I make good now, if I'm smart with my income, then I have a nice retirement life, right? In the akhirah, what's your income? Your deeds. So you see, in the usage of words, everything is about creating an imagery, and that's why Quran is a miracle, and that's why Quran speaks to you. Okay, that is why, you know, I used to when I didn't know Arabic, I used to always ask myself, like, I know Quran is a miracle, but how? I mean, Arabs can understand this. This is Arabic language. Arabs can understand this. Much later, I find out that no, majority of the Arabs don't understand the Quran when it's recited. Majority don't, because it's Fusha. They speak Armenia. Yes, majority don't. So it is, and when you begin to understand it from the Arabic standpoint, that's when you realize, wow, what a powerful, just think about this, it's the same message, right? But you see in how many different ways Allah has presented, how many different ways that you are going to be held accountable. How many different ways in just one surah. Imagine in the entire Quran, nothing has been repeated. Different images. Anything that can possibly be there for us to relate to, it is there in the Quran so that we can take lesson from it and change our ways. That's the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how much He wants me to earn my Jannah. So just grab that opportunity. You know, there's the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam which mentions that you want to take care of the 5 before the 5. Time before you get busy. Youth before you become old. Wealth before you become poor. Health before you become sick. Life before death. Right? You want to take care of the 5 before 5. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to make the earnings that will help us build our homes in eternity. Alright, اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. You know, the imagery of this is in dunya we see hands tied, right? Hands tied. In the akhirah, it is tongue tied. Tongues tied. And your hand's going to be talking and your feet is going to be bearing witness. Why is hand going to be talking? Because hand is basically the doer. Your feet just went wherever your hand wanted to go do stuff. Right? So your feet is basically the witness for all your actions. Alright? So your limbs will become a witness against you or for you. Right? Okay, وَتَشْهَدُ أَرْجُلُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah, He mentions وَلَوْ نَشَأْ لَطَمَسْنَا عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِهِمْ فَاسْتَبَقُوا الصِّرَاطَ فَأَنَّىٰ يُبْصِرُونَ. What he's talking about here is, let me take you to ayah number 48. You know over here, when he mentions, وَيَقُولُونَ مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, right? And then he presented all the scene in the akhirah, and he's talked about the believer in Jannah, he talked about the disbeliever in what his state is going to be. But when they met, now he's saying, you know, when they made this statement, وَيَقُولُونَ مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, as a consequence, right? As a consequence, in ayah number 66, when they said that, we could have وَلَوْ نَشَأْ لَتَمَسْنَا عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِهِمْ. Tamasa basically is, you know, to rub something to the point where it's completely flat. You get that? You rub something so hard that it's completely flat. So what Allah is talking about here is that we could have rubbed their eyes so much that they would not have been able to see anymore when they made this comment as a consequence. Meaning, what Allah is saying, as soon as they made this statement, we could have declared their end. They would have never seen the path. They would have never found guidance again. It would have been the end, right? And that's exactly a proof against those people who say, well, Allah put a wall on me, Allah sealed my heart, what am I going to do? When you understand it in context, you realize that it is not Allah who is creating these walls. It is you. What Allah is doing, yes, He could have just finished you, but because you have that bank of breaths, right? And you have that certain appointed time, He's allowing you. He's giving you that chance. Maybe you will turn around. He's not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a tyrant. He just wants to go out there, grab people and throw them in Jannah. That's not who He is. Because if He wanted to do that, He could have done that the minute these people say, when is it going to come? When is this punishment going to come on us? At that time, don't you think the mighty Allah could have just taken them out from the face of this earth just like that? But He didn't. So that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reiterating over here, that we could have done that. And it's from our rahmah that we did. وَلَوْ نَشَأْ لَطَمَسْنَا عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِهِمْ فَاسْتَبَقُوا الصِّرَاطَ فَأَنَّا يُبْصِرُونَ. They would have been racing towards the straight path, but how could they have found it? Because they don't have eyes anymore, right? The other thing that they mention over here is which happened with Bani Israel. وَلَوْ نَشَأْ لَمَسَخْنَاهُمْ عَلَىٰ مَكَانَتِهِمْ. As soon as they made this comment, right? وَيَقُولُونَ مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ. As soon as they made this comment, we could have changed their form, deformed them completely. Like a clan from Bani Israel was changed into monkeys. We could have done that to them too, and they would not have been able to move forward or move backwards. That's basically, it's basically Allah declaring His power, His izzah. He's capable of doing this. He's Aziz, He can do this, but He is Rahim. That's why He lets you be. That's why He lets me be. He allows me that time. وَلَمَسَخْنَاهُمْ عَلَىٰ مَكَانَتِهِمْ فَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا مُضِيًّا وَلَا يَرْجِعُونَ. They won't be able to go forward, neither will they be able to go back. Right? وَمَنْ نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَكِّسْهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. And now he's coming back again to the question. Like, okay, what is it going to take? Let me give you another example. Let me give you another logic. Let me try to appeal to your reason again. I give you long life, right? نُعَمِّرْهُ, we give him long life. وَنُنَكِّسْهُ, and then we flip it completely. Nakasa means to flip something completely. We flip it completely. Old age, we give you long life, you attain old age. And in old age, what happens? Your state is completely flipped. However you were born, right? Dependent, weak. That's exactly what you are at your end. Don't you see that? You're asking, how am I going to bring you back to life? Don't you see the transformations happening around you? I showed you the transformation that happens with the dead earth. The dead earth, the barren earth, it produces your food. Why is it so hard for you to understand? If I was able to create you from nothing the first time, second time, it shouldn't be a big deal. That's the point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is driving home again and again. Right? So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَنْ نُعَمِّرْهُ نَكِسْهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. Like, again, why? Why are they not using their brains? What's the reason? Next, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues and He says over here, this is the last part. Okay, what's the time?
3:25 to 3.
3:23, we'll take a 5-minute break, stretch, and then we'll come back to the last part, inshallah. Okay?